Alright, so let's get this thing started. Alright, so I have to do window capture, so it's going to get a little crazy as I transition through the windows, so bear with me as we go into space. So let me start with my template. Keep in mind I'm going to largely ignore the chat until I get through my walkthrough. So try to save any questions, and I'll try to follow back through as well. So I thought it was best to kind of sit down and walk through how this system works, and how I hope it helps various Pokken scenes out there. This is by no means a concrete and finalized project, and constructive feedback accompanied by critical thinking would be much appreciated back on this. To start, I need to explain my point system. These points are not a determining factor on the order of PR in any way, shape, or form. They simply are a point reward system to show how active members are in a community and how well they have placed at events. So that system is, yes, this is the updated one. Today I have this following system, and again, this is not concrete. I'm already seeing some possible problems with it, but we'll address that here in a second. All participants are rewarded at minimum 1 point for a free bracket. That does get multiplied by the systems, and we'll get into that. That's to help reflect the activeness of a player in their scene. Oh goodness. So if the tournament is paid, it is times or multiplied by 2. If it's a monthly system, it's multiplied by 3. Regional is 3.5. Major is 4. With 4 to 12 players, the top 8 get additional points. I'm sorry, 13 to 32, top 12. 33 to 64, 16. And then 65 to 128, top 24. And again, that's not concrete. I'm already seeing some problems with this section here, so we might expand that further. We'll get to that. With this section, if there's less than 8 players, because obviously this awards top 8, these numbers are unaltered. That's mainly kind of a thank you for your continued support to your locals. Say if you only get 5 people, they still get the points as if they placed, you know, top 5, essentially, even if it was last that day. Kind of to help bring them back and not kind of shy them off. So let me see here. Any higher numbers than that for a total event will be handled on a case-by-case basis. And these numbers are based on an average of events seen from the end of Season 1. They can and will be scaled up once attendance at events improves on a national level. So, how do we determine what category a tournament falls into and how many points we need to award? It was quite the conversation the other day on what terms to use, and this is not concrete at all, but it's what I felt I was most comfortable with. So let me go to my blanks here, and that'll probably help. Well, maybe not. Let's go to this one. Alright, so here is my legend. We have 5 different categories: free, paid, monthly, regional, and major. Free is a free entry bracket and does not offer any cash of any sort as a prize. Some examples of these are, of course, a free entry weekly, a booster bracket format, or a free entry convention tournament. Just some examples. A paid bracket, of course, is a paid entry weekly where cash is offered as the prize. A monthly is a paid entry bracket that typically has a higher entry fee and or smaller size pop bonus. Expected entrants are those within the region, and no more than 3 out of scene attendants are expected. So I just want to make sure I don't have any sound problems. So for an example, like Nebraska Pokken's monthly event, Guard Break, with a $10 entry fee and a $20 pop bonus if 16 players enter the bracket. We do have 1 out-of-scene player announced at the moment, so it will still be counted as a monthly. A regional is a paid entry bracket that has brought 4 or more players who are not typically participants in that scene on a regular basis. Pot bonuses are a likely possibility, typically ranging from $50 to $200. Out-of-scene attendance are typically announced a few days prior to the event dates. That way, if there is a sudden like, let's go visit these folks and invade their scene, it doesn't mar that scene, basically. So if someone were to surprise, in that sense. So, for an example, Hitbox Arena prevents Hidden Boss 3 featuring Alistair, Jaming, Milne, Swillow, Goon, and more. That's a very hypothetical situation. Those are not announced. Anyway, moving on. Majors is a paid entry event that has brought in 50-ish people from numerous regions, size relative to the Pokken bracket scene today, and has a large monetary prize on the line, usually about $250 or more. So there were a few questions concerning this, and I'll go ahead and these were questions brought up previously that I wanted to go ahead and address right now. So one of the examples that was brought up was a Pokemon regional event where there's a large amount of unskilled players, but by the above definition is a regional event. There's a chance for skilled players to play in the bracket, but it is typically not expected until we are back in circuit season. They are paid events in the sense that you have to buy tickets to enter, and then a cash prize is offered to the winner, usually a static amount instead of scaled. So, where does that fall? I kind of determined that it's going to be handled on a case-by-case basis, based on the participants. So, for example, the Dallas Regional that took place recently, the Day 2 event, Bullimar, I believe, was the, I think Lucario Jr.? I'm not, maybe not. But there was very few skilled players in that bracket. So it's kind of hard to determine where that exactly sits. So these events will be handled on a case-by-case basis. We don't know what prizes are being given, who's going to be there, etc., etc. They will most likely fall into a monthly or above status due to the bracket size. Moving on. The next kind of example that was brought up was anime conventions. On the rare occurrence that an anime convention bracket netted a large amount of players, say for example 50, and one of those players was a top player who happens to be a known top player in the scene already, for example, Alistair. By an attendance definition, it is a major, especially if it's a paid entry event or at least $5 player. By a skill level definition, it's a free bracket. There might be a hidden boss in the bracket, but that is an unexpected outcome, and it can only be determined after the fact by a player themselves. And by a geographical definition, it is a monthly because the players attending could be from out of state, but the vast majority and expected outcome is the vast majority of players being from the local area. Ultimately, again, these will be determined on a case-by-case basis. They most likely will fall under the free bracket system due to the expected skill level and attendance, but that is not determined. Finally, the third one that was brought up that I don't think was brought up actually in the conversation, but I thought about, was Winter Brawl is a free entry bracket system with a $1,000 prize pool. The system states it's a major bracket, must be paid events, yada yada yada. Anyway, Winter Brawl, let's not be silly here. It's definitely going to be a major just because of the money on the line and the number of people going. Yeah, don't worry about that. So now that that's all explained, let's kind of go into how this spreadsheet system is going to work. The point system results tab is kind of going to be a tally system of those points awarded on this this system here. So this is obviously a blank here, so I wanted to show not only how it looks at a blank slate, but also a filled out slate. So this is Nebraska's last quarter results. So this is kind of how it looks like filled out. Now, this system that you're seeing here is actually prior to the breakout of monthly categories. The green is our free entry brackets. The purple is, when I did this, it was online and regionals. So going forward, online events will not be counted towards these just because there's a lot of factors that we can't control, such as lag. Any that are uncolored or the white are paid. Orange is monthly. And since this doesn't include the major system, you won't see any red, but that'll be implemented going forward. Oh, let's see. I lost track of my script here. So when I am looking at this to kind of determine PR, again, I stated this point system is not determinant of PR because if so, I'd be the second best player in the region, and that's not accurate. Um, my recommendation is to kind of use this as a loose slate to kind of determine who qualifies and who doesn't. Now, one of the other things that I do here is any of the names that you see in blue are folks who have attended at minimum 3 events and thus qualify for PR. I highly recommend having that 3 event minimum for a qualifier just to make sure that it's not someone who's just coming in 2 times out of a quarter just to wreck face and then expecting to make top on PR. I think it's fair to have it at 3 because that at least leaves it to where if there is a monthly event that they attend from out of state, that gives them the opportunity, as long as they are there all 3 times, to have that shot. Ultimately, it is up to the TOs and the PR committee of your region to decide who qualifies and who doesn't, and who makes it on the PR anyway. So, I provide just the data. I don't determine who your PR is. That's up to your scene's TO. Gosh, hang on. I also try to recommend the 3 event minimum because I don't go through and break down the players who do not qualify for that, just to save time. So please keep that in mind. If you need blanks for these, oh wait, no, hang on. I think I just got ahead of myself. I did. Yo. Okay, so next tab, the placement tracker. Let's go back to the template here because that's going to be updated. What this tab does is basically I tally up the number of times a player has reached certain placements in a bracket. Again, this is them meeting the 3 event minimum. And it definitely kind of helps determine, like, this is where I look first when I'm trying to determine PR, after I have everything tallied up. So as you can see, I've categorized this out by free, paid, monthly, regional, and majors. And I include the legend there in case anyone forgets. There's obviously a lot on here. If they don't get all filled out, that's really not that big of a deal. But let's go to an example here that's filled out. Again, this is Nebraska's from last season. It's not as broken out as the other ones. So, as you can see, these are paid, these are free, and these are monthly. Again, these are not ordered like the other template. Sorry, this system that I was using for quarter 4 was, I guess, more of a beta, and then consider the template that I keep showing you guys more of an alpha. Anyway, so these will just simply tally up where that goes to, and then also it doesn't automatically output this, the points, but I record those here for their totals. Yeah, so moving on, go to the win-loss tracker. So what this page does is I tally up if they meet that 3 event minimum, who a person has fought throughout the season, how many times they've won as far as matches go, how many times they've won as far as sets go. Ooh, I need to expand my legend a little bit. I'll get to that. But the number of times you've won and lost against them. So, an example. So again, this is not as broken out as that updated system, but this is just an example. So as we can see, I get constantly wrecked by Fiora, for example, during our monthly events. Those are the only events that I fought her at, but I just so happen to fight her each time. So that's why I need to work on the breaks and matchup. Some other ones, you know, as you can kind of see, Sir Spud, I fought at a paid, a free, and a monthly level. So I kind of use this to determine how that stacks up in regards to PR and the order. Some of the other things I calculate here is obviously total number of games, matches, sets, and their win percentage. For those who have seen my player stat cards, this is the data that I just simply screen cap and throw out there. So it does look rough, but it's literally just pulling from this. Oh, let's see. This is the meat of the data. I totally went off my script, so I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss any points that I wanted to go for. Now, this page right here is the exact reason why I have asked TOs that if you weren't already, please record the scores and not just the wins. I've already talked to, I think, Kino from SoFlo and SoCal, and I think those are the only two scenes that I was aware of doing that. But this is the reason why I asked for that, just as a personal favor, because the data is not as accurate without that match information. If you only record the sets, I have to just record the sets, and that doesn't reflect if it was a 2-0 or 2-1 to show how close it might have been. So, um, yeah, anyway. Oh, and I do a big ol' write-up on why. That's not really needed here. So, you might be wondering, I wrote this paragraph. Hold up. I'm totally here today. Okay, so as a TO, you might be wondering, how do I determine PR from here? So usually I start with the placement tracker, and I see basically how the events weigh each other. So in this system, monthlies outweighed paid, and then paid outweighed free. Free was really not the determinant factor of PR. It was more used as a tiebreaker if needed. So obviously in our new system, how does that work? Well, majors are going to have more weight than regionals, regionals more weight than monthlies, monthlies more than paid, and then free, again, will stay as a tiebreaker. Look over your players and then see who is more often taking top placement and then how consistent they are. From there, I will go to, from the placement tracker, I will go to the win-loss tracker and kind of see how things stack up. If you have a player who is taking first more often, then they're going to start up in the higher chunks of the PR, however many you plan on doing. And then kind of going to your midsection, then your low section, and kind of determining it from there. So that is essentially it. Basically, I will be filling these out for your scene and delivering to your TO. And again, I am not determining your PR, I'm just simply delivering the data. So let's go ahead and open this up to questions. Give me a second to get that set up here. It's going to look a little weird, so I apologize.